What's going on, viewers? Bezlanier here. Well, I'm just making this video because I wanted to say that I'm probably not going to have a video up here. I'm kind of working on an animation thing that I want to put at the beginning of the next video, so here's a little sample. You can see what I'm working on here. I'll just play this spoiler alert. I don't know what to say. Anyway, so you get a peek behind the curtains here. Yeah, it's just a silly little animation. Anyway, you can see there's some stuff going on. So, yeah, I've been working on that. Still doing the Torchlight LP. That's probably what we're going to be going forward on. That's what this is for. So, you know, I don't know. I'm still good. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe a couple days. I'm just, I don't know. I want to be consistent, but moreover, I want to do what I want to do, so we're just gonna have to see how that goes. The other thing I kind of wanted, I've been thinking about doing videos on that, and I've also been thinking about doing videos on some other things. So I was thinking I might in the future at some point do a video on the Quaternary Extinction event. As you can see, I'm on the Wikipedia page here. This is a pretty interesting thing. Pretty interesting subject. So it happened, I think around, I want to say 30,000 years ago. But what happened was, so most of the megafauna on Earth, which is mammals weighing more than 40 kilograms, went extinct. In North America, 33 out of 45 genera went extinct. South America, most of them, Australia, Europe, and so you see in sub-Saharan Africa, only 2 of 44 went extinct. So that's an interesting thing. Oddly, I don't see any numbers for Asia there. That's one of the interesting things. Also, is that you see that stuff like Asian elephants and tigers are still around. But in North America and Africa, in North America, Australia, and stuff. God, when did this go? This happen? This was easier to talk about when I wasn't looking at the page, because this is like super duper overload. It gives you some stuff to look at, but I think this would happen around. I want to say around 30 to 40,000 years ago, and this was not all right at once. So the extinctions in Australia happened a little after the extinctions in North America and South America, and so that fact kind of is some evidence against the possibility of climate change, or volcanic eruption, or an asteroid hitting the Earth causing any of this, because then you would have expected to see all the extinctions happen all on all continents at the same time, and it also doesn't explain why the megafauna on Africa and Asia didn't go extinct, especially Africa. So this leads to the prevailing theory at the time, I believe, is the secondary predation theory, which is that the humans, and the timing of this event occurs not too long after humans really started coming out of Africa. So they came across the Beringia, which was the land bridge between Asia over by Russia, and leading to North America over around Alaska. So it's around the time that not too long after humans came over there, and I think humans probably started spreading across the world on boats with seafaring. Ancient humans were very proficient navigators, albeit not on warships or anything huge, but they were very at home on the water, and actually very good astronomers in their own right. They had some, they could always see the sky, and they had, in their oral history, they had a very clear understanding of a lot of things that had to do with seasons, and they could navigate by the stars very effectively. And they had their anyway. So getting way out of line here in my thinking. So I think maybe it's called second order predation, not secondary predation. So that's what I'm looking at right here. So basically, the theory is that humans hunted the big predators, and they hunted those guys to extinction, and then that caused the populations of all the animals that the big predators were previously hunting themselves to explode out of control, which ruined their ecosystems and led to the extinction of all these large animals, and basically creating a climate change out of that. And there may have been some climate change arising from other external factors that it doesn't have to all be one thing. Like, different things could have happened together to cause a situation where these large animals couldn't really survive anymore. But there were also remnants after this time, and this is another thing that supports the secondary predation theory, is as a for instance, and I can't remember exactly where this was, but there was an island that was isolated from everything. So it was isolated from human exposure, and on this island there were actually still dwarf mammoths living on that island, I believe up until around 4,000 years ago. So up until around 4,000 years before current era, there were actually still dwarf mammoths on this planet and I believe the extinction of these mammoths does concur with concur. Ugh, I concur. I believe it took place around the time that humans actually found that island and got there. You can also see a big Madagascar comes to mind. It's a very interesting place biologically, because it is this massive island that evolved sort of similar. It's similarly interesting to the way that once upon a time Australia and New Zealand evolved, because Australia and New Zealand evolved where birds were actually the apex predators, and they had giant birds that I don't remember any numbers, but they were even bigger than like ostriches by a good bit, and they were the apex predators there. They were also the apex predators in New Zealand, and I believe they were the ancestors of the kiwi before they lost their niche up there, and I believe because they were hunted by humans, and so only the smaller ones could survive. But you see that the kiwi actually lost its flight capabilities and shrunk down. I don't mean this in any active way, I mean over time. So no agency involved. That's not really the way things work. But I'm getting so sidetracked. But this stuff's all like really interesting, and I wish I could lay it out in a coherent way. That's what I'd like to do if I do make any natural history videos. But so the kiwis are interesting because they're flightless, and their feathers have evolved to be almost like fur. But so then there you have, in Australia, you have this sort of microcosm of where birds had been the apex predators, and they filled all these evolutionary niches, whereas on Madagascar, a lot of it was the lemurs, which were, they're related to some of the original primates before they evolved into modern monkeys, which is something that you can learn about in anthropology, and they can determine this through a lot of the bones around the eyes and the way that they are formed and fused is a lot of the determiners that they can tell where a primate falls along the evolution, but these were some of the more primal ones, and they were pretty much. I believe I want to say that there was basically a really big, like bear-sized lemur, basically on Madagascar at one point, and mainly, I mean, because this was an isolated island at one point in time that evolved all this life on its own. Lemurs had filled so many different niches, and the very few animals that were there all evolved to fill different niches. So that was a very interesting place. But as this relates, you can see how it relates to things in that evolution happens differently in different places, and you can see both of these places, Madagascar and Australia, are both places where humans came in and sort of took away some of those ecological niches, and where you can see that happening at different times with this Quaternary Extinction event, and that supports the idea that humans were responsible. I don't think I made a coherent statement whatsoever, but anyway, as I've been just sitting here on the same part of the thing, it is very interesting though. So I kind of wanted to make a video about it because some of the things that interest me about this is other than the fact that this entire event and the theory behind it is incredibly fascinating, but it brings some questions to my mind, and I wouldn't call these questions scientific, but it makes me wonder about the nature of what transpired in Asia, because there are more. I believe there's somewhat more megafauna still remaining in Asia, which is strange because the whole theory is relating to human migration and the effect that this caused. And I believe I mentioned this. The reason why the megafauna in Africa were supposed to not gone extinct by the secondary predation theory is because everything evolved with them. I did like a recording on this a few minutes ago, and I feel like I was like a little bit more like coherent, but unfortunately I recorded it with the wrong microphone, and it was just terrible. So this is actually a picture of one of the giant sloths that existed at that time. If you read this article, it also, I believe this article talks a little bit about how the event where North and South America came together, which happened sometime not too long before this Quaternary Extinction event. So when North and South America came together, that actually caused a migration of animals between it, and it caused its own extinction. So it's an interesting thing that you can see when nature does these things that sort of moves animals around. Even continents connecting, and ice age, things like that can cause a lot of shakeup in the biological makeup of the world. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. I'm just rambling at this point, but I was thinking about making a video with some like graphics and stuff about this subject. So, yeah, I guess that's about all I have to say about it. I don't even know. This is probably gonna be a horrible video, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm probably not gonna have a video out, and this is why. But these are some of the things that I'm thinking about doing. So I don't know. I guess that's this is Bezlanier signing out then, and I'll see you another time for another video. Viewers, thanks for joining me.